Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town Council Financial Oversight Committee meeting of Thursday, May 11th, 2023. First, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I would like to have, starting down here on my left, introductions of everyone and the audience. It's your choice if you want to introduce yourself or not.
Good afternoon, Ralph Page, Town Council President, ex officio.
Matt Boucher, Town Council.
Kathy Hill, Town Council.
Dawn Starks, Chair of the FOC.
Jay Sealer, member of the FOC.
Oversight, Fire Chief.
Chris Beecher, Deputy Fire Chief.
Tom Christensen, Deputy Town Manager.
Jim White, FOC member.
Chris Sonnier, former member of the committee.
Marilyn Richards, Town Council Vice President.
Craig Thompson, School Committee Chair.
Thank you all. I'd also like to ask if anyone here other than LCAT is recording this meeting. If so, please state so. Seeing none, we move on. Before we go on to the meeting minutes, I do need another volunteer. Anyone? Don't raise.
It's
yet.
my turn.
It's
All
yours.
right. Thank you, Matt.
Considering showing up a couple minutes late.
We're getting down to the end here. Hopefully everyone got a copy of the meeting minutes and had a chance to review them. I was thanking Kathy that the form with the bullet points was great because then I could easily separate what we did and what we didn't do. And we did a lot more last week than I thought we did. So, any changes? No? I'd like to hear.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from last meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, none abstained. Meeting minutes pass. Today, we are going to, first up, will be Fire Chief Paul Morissette presenting his budget. And Chief, basically what we do is we let you run through your budget. We're looking for the big numbers.
Bullet items.
Yep, and any other things that you think we need to know. And then we, if you're open to it, if we have any questions or clarifications, we can straighten them out now.
Sure.
And I turn the floor over to you.
Okay, I watched Chief Williams, and I promised not to make it like a job interview. I know he kept saying that throughout, that way. I did create a couple of sheets here. The first one we're passing out is kind of like statistical data. Everybody that way? Yeah, I think so. Just kind of statistical data, kind of where we've been, kind of shows how when you get to that, when I pass the next sheet out, I'll kind of explain a couple of things. So our calls have steadily been increasing since 2020, actually since way before then, but I figured this was enough. And our transports and our EMS calls have been increasing, and we are on track this year to hit close to 4,400 calls, which in perspective, that's probably 1,400 over Long Meadow. So when you think about, they've been doing the ambulance business for 30-something years now. Wilbraham's been doing it about the same amount of time, and they're about 500 less than us right now, maybe a little bit closer, depending on the day of Wilbraham. So they're a little bit closer than Long Meadow. We are demographics: 3 nursing homes, 2 assisted living facilities, and a whole bunch of elderly housing complexes. Our morning wake-up call is either 741 Parker Street or Bend Drive area.
Right.
So
You answered my question.
Mr. President gets his way someday. He's always joked about a substation. The substation should be on Bend Drive. It just makes it easy. So that's kind of just information, food for thought. It doesn't. Jim, I apologize. I didn't know you'd be online. I can email you this after the meeting.
I appreciate that, but I'm going to listen intently.
Okay, basically again, the sheet shows everything is well up, hitting that 10% range, especially this year, from last year. And it's just, like this morning, I think we've already had 9 calls for the day. And they've just been nonstop. The good part is we're still maintaining, transport wise, we're still handling about 90% of it. With 2 ambulances, but when the 3rd call comes in and the 4th call comes in, it's hard for us to, even if we had the ambulance, we don't have the staffing and we don't have the place to put the staffing. Our space is our biggest concern. We did have on the capital up list was a study for the Public Safety Committee. Unfortunately, that didn't make the hit list this year. We'll see what happens. And some of that stuff Mark and I can start without spending a lot of money right now anyways, at least get the ball moving in the right direction. The next page I have talks about the 2 budgets. Jay and Jim, I'm not sure if you realize, but the fire department actually has 2 budgets. We have a fire department budget, which is funded by the town. If you can pass that around, I can appreciate it. And the ambulance budget is funded by the revenue from the ambulance. And my goal has always been to try to get the staffing at least close to 50% on the ambulance and the other 50% on the fire department. We are almost there right now. One of the reasons this year we couldn't really do it is because we're still paying a lease payment, and we're also looking at leasing another ambulance because of the lead time. The delivery date for an ambulance is almost 2 years now, almost as bad as fire trucks. But I'm not really even sure it's going to work in 2 years, but we'll find out this fall.
And then I have a question.
Can I ask a question quickly?
Yep.
In terms of the ambulance calls, and obviously the numbers are up this year.
Yep.
Are other communities relying on us more? Are they meeting their demand?
They are. It's kind of a 50-50 split. We go to Long Meadow sometimes, we go to Hamden sometimes, but they're also, Hamden Action Ambulance is in town an awful lot, which I wish we could do better because their rates are a lot higher than ours.
Yeah.
So for somebody that gets transported by Action, I feel bad for them because it's at least $1,000 more if it's a serious call than what we charge. Ours are fixed. We're not the cheapest of the municipalities in Western Mass, but we're definitely not the highest either. But the private ambulance services like Action, like AMR, like National, they beat to a different drum. They're strictly a for-profit agency, and they'll charge more money to cover all of their costs.
So is there a schedule, so to speak, where the call comes in? Does it come to us? If we can't do it, does it go to a certain area first, or like a dispatch?
So it goes to dispatch. Dispatch calls us. Say the first call goes, we'll say 7 Rescue 1's got it. We'll tell them who's going. Second call comes in, 7 Rescue 2's got it. And then if a third call comes in and those ambulances aren't available, it'll be 7 Ladder 1 or 7 Engine 3 with a mutual aid ambulance, please. And they pick, depending on what part of town, if it's close to Long Meadow, if it's on the Benton Drive area, they'll call Long Meadow and see if they're available. And if they're not, then they call Action for the whole town. Action handles like most of the rest of the town from the center that way towards Hamden. Those are our 2 primaries because timing wise, Wilbraham most of the time comes from Boston Road, and Summers is coming from Route 190 down there, so that's a poke. So timing wise, it's better for us if they're available. But Action again they're a company that is thin on help, and every now and then they're not staffed to the paramedic level. So it's a challenge.
I know, historically, we have lots of equipment, we have staff, we're a coveted department, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so my history has indicated in prior years, sometimes other communities don't keep up with what they need, and they come to us for mutual aid.
Right. We, when it comes to the ambulance service, it's probably pretty close. You do the numbers every month. Yeah. And we do a mutual aid.
I know there's nothing we can do about it. I just wanted to understand in terms of the increase in numbers, is it just that we have more calls because people are sicker? Or are we having more accidents, or are we just seeing
I
people
think,
coming to us more?
I think we see more, I think we see about the same going out and in. I mean, every month is a little different. One month might be a little higher coming in, but going out, and it works out that way. As far as types of calls, I think yesterday just about everyone that came over was a fall. Over that I heard over the air was a fall, and yeah, I don't know what the magic button is, but it is a challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Dawn.
So a couple things on the budget. It is the ambulance budget's higher, but if you look at it's the non-salary items that brings that budget up. One of the items in there is the lease of the ambulance. That's the last payment of the lease on the ambulance. The other one, I believe, is listed in the capital.
Right.
Yeah, further down. Tom's probably going to talk about the capital stuff later, I think. It kind of breaks down where everybody is. The admin, the fire department admin, half her salaries on fire side, half her salaries on the ambulance. The deputy chief and the fire chief are all on the fire side. At some point, as the revenue increases, we can probably split some of that and move that towards the other side. What we've been doing, this is the first year, but historically the fire budget's been dropping every year a little bit. Not big numbers, but a little bit every year. This year, it kind of just creeped up a bit. And part of that is, as I hit bullet items down below of stuff that's kind of changed a little bit. Our repairs are through the roof. And part of it is the age of the equipment. I got 2 fire trucks on order, but the cost of repairs and the lead time on the parts is extremely frustrating. So I increased that budget up $5,000 from $35,000. This year, which I've been talking with the town manager and Kim in finance. I'm hurting in the repair budget. That $5,000 is probably not going to cover it. I think I'm going to be all right, be able to move stuff back and forth. Right now, I'm waiting for some repairs to be finished and bills to come in, and then I'll be working with Mary and Kim in finance, which is good because I still have money available from other spots. So I might not need to come for more money. Historically, I don't think I've ever done it since I've been chief, and I don't want to ruin it in my streak, but I don't want to jinx it either. Repairs others is our extrication equipment, or some of our SCBA stuff and like that. Again, the costs are just keep going up. Seminars increased contractually. Chris gets a little bit to go to seminars, so that's why that went up. Professional tech is actually last year we were fortunate enough to get a custodian at the fire station. We were going to hire a part-timer like the rest of the town has. Working with Bruce in the facilities department, we did some interviews, didn't really work out. Somebody made a suggestion, maybe we can hire a contractor. So that's what we did. So we moved it last year from salaries to the non-salary. So that's why that's down there. That's why that one bumped up a little bit. Software increased, the cost of software, plus during the year, this year, which was budgeted, we purchased a policy management software, which we're working on implementation now. Fuel, it's no secret. The other with the ambulance ones is up a lot because they're moving a lot more. Fire supplies increased $7,800 for other stuff. That last item, the capital outlay site improvement, it's for some station modifications to fit more people, or not to really fit more people, but to rearrange it so they can fit easily. Again, the station wasn't designed for 24 hours a day. It wasn't designed for 7 people 24 hours a day. So we're doing the best we can. On the ambulance budget, same answers basically. Repairs went up about 4,000. The professional tech went up 8,000. That's part of that custodial cost. Software, that's part of the software for the policies. Our fuel supplies, the council members might remember, I came in front of the council back in January because my fuel budget for the ambulances was almost half gone, almost all gone. So we basically doubled it. So that's what that 14,000 is. Medical supplies, another challenge. I'm trying to be conservative. I didn't want to go much higher than $2,500, but I think the total line item on that is close to $70,000. Oh, I got the wrong budget here. Yeah, it's next year it'll be $70,000, and that's basically your cardiac equipment, your Band-Aids, your nasal cannulas, all the medical stuff, all the drugs. I tried to be conservative. I didn't want to get too carried away. And then the last thing was actually a decrease because part of that line item last year was some bunker gear for some of our new hires. Shoot.
Fireside. I know that there's a lot more EV vehicles out there, and I see that when they go up in flames. Do we have the right equipment and chemicals? Do we need more training in the future, just as a future?
Training is always ongoing. We need a dumpster that we can fill with water to put the car into it so that it doesn't take off. But
so how does that work? Do they bring the car's on fire, or you put it out and pray it doesn't reignite?
So the batteries in the cars, the Tesla, for example, the battery's underneath the car.
Yeah,
it's underneath the car. And it's a whole bunch of little cylinder batteries all connected in a cell, and a bigger cell, and a big, connects. And whether it's an accident or the battery's a malfunction, that one battery will start to have a reaction, overheat, and basically it creates a chain reaction. It just keeps going. Right. There's history of those cars, Teslas are one of them, and they're not the only ones, being in a storage yard after an accident. 2 weeks later, starting back on fire again.
Okay. Yep.
We're fortunate we don't have any storage yards. We got a couple body shops, but we don't have any storage yards. Mascaro's tows their vehicles out of town, and CJ's tows their vehicles out of town. They don't store them in Sun Meadow. We haven't had an issue yet. There is no chemicals right now. First of all, you can't get it into the spot without really doing a lot of opening it up. It's just copious amounts of water. It's a ton of water right now. And cool it down best you can. Keep an eye on it. The issue with those batteries too is just not in the cars. It's the scooters. New York's having a real problem with the electric scooters. The ones that the kids are riding on with the two little wheels in the front, or the ones that kind of look like a moped almost.
Yeah.
People are bringing them in. They're going up to their fourth floor apartment. They're plugging them in the charger, and then 2 days later, there's a fire and people die. In New York City, they're going through several a week, and they're bringing in hazmat squads to deal with them. It's a scary thing.
You also need specialized.
Our bunker gear can handle our part of it. If you're dealing with the waste product afterwards, you may need to worry about it.
So with waste product, that's all covered by insurance of the
vehicle,
right? And there are plenty of contractors for that.
Yeah.
I imagine it would be profitable.
Yes, yeah. It is for even for the tow companies right now. If they go to a spill, they can bill your. If you get in a car accident, you're freezing your oils out, they can bill for your a hazmat cleanup. So your $250 tow just went up a little higher. Yeah.
Questions?
He's always got questions.
You usually have questions.
We grew up.
The only comment, I'm just looking at the enterprise fund for the ambulance. Looks like the proposed budget will still leave you a surplus of roughly $241,000. So on the ambulance side, everything's covered. All the costs are covered. The lease is covered, and you're still projecting something left over in case. I mean, obviously.
Right, and then money comes in like every month anyway, so it's always building. And it's been a record year. to be honest with you, when we first started this, if my goal was to break $1 million a year, and now we're.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, we were told by AMR, you know, about 1,200 transports a year. That means maybe 1,200 transports a year. And yeah, and I don't know what if they were just fibbing because, or.
Well, you're in a competition too.
But they can't handle what they have. That's the unfortunate part for them. I mean, they're supposed to have so many people on in Springfield. They don't. There's, you know, and they've actually given up contracts because they can't hire enough help. Which everybody's feeling that pinch. It's no different than the fire service or any type of business. Everybody's struggling to hire people.
So for ambulance, I imagine they have to keep up with all of the new technology and medical.
Codes and standards and regulations change constantly.
Yeah.
One of the positions we have is an EMS coordinator, and one of them is an ALS coordinator. It's two separate. One is kind of keeping an eye on what they did, reading reports, making sure everything's kosher, dealing directly with the hospital if the hospital's got any concerns. And the other one is keeping all the equipment up to date, making sure it's tested, checked on a regular basis, and also tracking their credentials, making sure their credentials are current, and anything new coming down the pipe. And every year there's required training that they have to do, which is so that's part of it's built into our budget, part of it's not in the contract yet, which is a big thing on our salaries piece of it. Our contract had expired in June of 2022, so we're running on a FY22 salary schedule right now. So when the contract's negotiated, I'm not sure when that's going to be completed. I'll leave that to Tom and Mary. But that'll affect the numbers a little bit. On the ambulance side, should be fine. The money will be there. On the town side, it's just a matter of going in front of council.
As far as the ambulance goes, we're pretty much going to keep a lease payment just about every year because of the delay in getting it, I'm assuming. And just keep them rolling.
Right. It seems like it. It might change when we get not the one that's ordered comes in, but the one after that comes in. But that's 2 years down the road, so we'll have to see.
I'm just looking at the amount of trips and all, knowing.
Right.
And it's not as much the trips as far as the mileage. It's also leaving the vehicle running in order to keep everything running. So the hours on it goes up.
It is maintenance. Yeah. It's everybody's probably seen, like, we're using one of Long Meadow's ambulance now when it comes to mutual aid. I mean, they are a great partner. We're using their ambulance. Before that, we had Agwams for a week or two. We have an ambulance out now that's having the air conditioning system rebuilt for the third time. And I had the conversation with the dealer and the manufacturer that, I'm on the books for another ambulance in July. And I had it fixed, but it was out of warranty. It cost us $5,500. Out of warranty was an issue. Okay, we paid for it. Less than a year later, was an issue. They covered it under warranty. Now, less than a year later, it's the exact same issue, but they're saying they don't warranty a warranty. And I pretty much told them, if you ever want another order out of the town of Sun Meadow, I need some help here. I need some help from you, and I need some help from the manufacturer. So the ambulance is being repaired now, but it doesn't make sense.
No,
it doesn't make sense. And anybody I talk to that knows air conditioning, whether because it's all the same concept. It's not. There's something internally wrong that they're not taking care of, and it's just blowing up the system every time. So, and it's not a cheap fix. So we're working it. But fortunate enough with our partners, we got some great support from our neighbors and vice versa. We've done similar for them.
in terms of billing, there's a lot to it, I would imagine.
We don't do it. We contract out.
Okay.
That's part of the expense in professional services, right?
Okay.
It's a 3% is what our cost is. There is some that go to collections, which is a different agency, but through the same. That's a little bit more. They seem to do a pretty good job. But yeah, there's all kinds of regulations that need to be met And the last thing anybody in the town wants, especially my name, because my name's on a lot of stuff, is insurance fraud.
Right.
Yeah.
And a
So,
lot of stuff in the heat of the moment, I imagine. I just know from personal experience, you're thinking everything's covered and all of this is great, but
right,
no, there's fine.
yeah.
fine
We've
print
gotten
everywhere.
the phone calls and you explain to them, and then I've gotten the phone calls for people that have been transported by Action and East Long Meadow, because it happens. And they go, I can't help you with that. I wish I could, but I can't. And we offer programs for people that are struggling, and we have a policy. We always had a procedure in place, but when Kim came to town, Kim's a very policy-oriented individual, which is super cool. So we kind of wrote down what we did. She kind of took what she thought was supposed to happen, and myself and Dawn, we kind of met with Kim, and it's simple. It's a simple process, and that way it's fair and equitable to everybody. And that's kind of what we were doing. She just put a little more formality to it, which is nice.
Anyone else? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the explanations. I didn't have to ask.
Well, I figured,
They're
you know,
interesting
appreciate it.
statistics stuff.
Yeah, they are.
yeah, I figured, you know, sometimes a little information is too much, but some information is good. Yeah.
Well, to see the scale of the work that's done.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We're having EMS Appreciation Week is
Look at the 21st.
week of the 21st. It's national, but we're doing our own little in-house thing, buy lunch for
Did
everybody.
we have
The guys.
2 off-duty firefighters help?
We actually had 3. We had 3. One was out to dinner with his family, and the woman was choking, and he was able to help and perform the Heimlich. And she stopped in the fire station and was very grateful. 2 were in the Westfield River canoe race,
Oh.
and they witnessed a gentleman go overboard. The canoe flipped. The other passenger in the canoe was struggling to hang on to the passenger because the passenger was face down in the water. So they quickly get jumped into action. And now they're in this part of the Westfield River that's the water's just slapping. Canoes and kayaks are going by, people are flipping, and this guy's screaming for help. They grab the guy. One guy's got him on his stomach, basically, and his back is up against the rocks, slamming against them. The other guy was finally able to make himself his way over there, and you realize this guy was in cardiac arrest. It took them, I don't know, the time-wise, 20 to 30 minutes before they can even get him out of the water. They began CPR right away. Like, this guy's underneath this guy while they're doing CPR on him. A West Springfield firefighter saw what was going on. He jumped out of his canoe and went over to help him. It took him about an hour to get him from the water up the railroad tracks to a waiting ambulance. Not just them, there was a bunch of them. But, by then there was a whole bunch of other people helping them, but they were physically and emotionally exhausted at the end. Unfortunately, the outcome, and it wasn't. But if the guy was going to have any chance, these 2 guys, they're one's a relatively new hire, less than a year. The other one's almost 3 years now, and the 2 of them worked together for Action Ambulance for years. So they know their brains are just connected. So when immediately go into action, and if this guy had any bit of a fighting chance, it was with these guys. But I'm wicked proud that they.
Yeah.
That's what you want here. 24 hours a day. That's your job. No matter where you are. And they ended up going back, found their canoe, and finished the race. I'm glad they found their canoe. It was beat up, but they found their canoe. Those aluminum canoes don't take kindly to bump it on the rocks.
They don't. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Hope so. Okay. That's good, man.
You see.
Stand up.
I will.
Okay. we can switch gears now, and
Perfect times.
we are on to the capital improvement budget with our deputy town manager, Tom Christensen, here to walk us through it. Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I guess we'll just kind of do it like you guys have been doing everything else. I'll just run down the list, and then if you have any specific questions, we can come back to.
Sure.
I guess first I'll thank Ryan Quimby, Rich Ficero, Connor O'Shea, and Diane Bishop. They're the rest of the Capital Committee. Kim helped out a lot at most of the meetings, and obviously Mr. Page was there to ask questions. I don't think you missed one. No, maybe one.
I did apologize.
So it's not as impressive of a list this year without ARPA. It's page, it should be in there.
It is, I'm in the wrong part.
Okay, all right. Page 28 and 29.
Got it.
Yeah, we had quite a few more projects last year because of the ARPA funding, but we were trying to hang around 1.2, 1.3 million for the general fund capital projects. So I guess without further ado, we had 2 marked cruisers for the police department, $134,656. Engine 2 replacement for the fire department. This is 75% of the cost, 25% of which is covered by the ambulance fund. This is $142,265. For the schools, Birchland Park's ballasted roof replacement, $345,000. DPW, but the police station new generator, $58,950. Road improvements, paving, DPW, $350,000. Chromebook 1-to-1 replacements for IT, $137,110. And public safety mobile computers and modems for IT, $90,815, for a total capital recommended of $1,258,796. And then from enterprise funds, DPW sewer, Porter Road flow monitoring, $102,800. Again, sewer Dawes and Linwood pump replacement, $82,000. Those will come out of the sewer enterprise fund. The water division had 2 as well. Their water meter module upgrades, $140,000. And the Chestnut pump station upgrades, just under $2.4 million. We had applied for some grant funding for that. So however that gets paid, it's either going to be that grant funding or the retained earnings of this water division, or a combination of both. We'll see how that plays out.
And that was coming from Western Mass Development?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then stormwater, another one coming off, Porter Road Bridge repair, $34,000. I believe that amount was already approved by council and allocated. And then our municipal drainage retrofits, $200,000. And then on to the ambulance fund, engine 2 replacement, that's the 25%, $47,422. Year 3 of 3 for the ambulance 3, $136,312. And rescue 1 replacement, first lease payment, $171,200. So that's the list. If you have any specific questions about any of those projects or why they were selected or anything else, I'd be happy to answer.
What is the lead time, do you know, for the cruisers? If we order them, are we talking years?
I don't-
18 months?
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as the fire. I think.
So they're catching up now.
Yeah.
Right.
So previously, The ones we've ordered should be finally catching up and coming in, because we just voted on one. Because when we originally voted, it was $35,000, it's now $48,000. But that's in stock, and they'll be able to get that pretty quick. And it looks like now the lead time's gonna be less than a year at least, so. I mean, it still seems like a long time to wait for a vehicle, but.
And these come with, because I know we're buying the stuff that goes inside, right?
Yep.
So that, I guess, is that
Separate.
do they come with that in there? Or do we have to hire a different company to install all the software, you know?
It doesn't come in the vehicle,
Right.
however, the cost of which is in the capital request.
Right.
You're right.
Okay.
So they get outfitted, and that number is already included in the dollar amount.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's a separate company that does the
All
upfitting.
right. All right. So that part of, that must be contractual and gets put into this as part of,
So the vehicle along with the upfitting was combined
Yeah.
to go into the capital. So this capital number covers everything.
Yeah, so the estimates on the cruiser are only about 45,000 a piece, right?
as of right now.
As of right now. And then the chief added the upfitting cost for all the vehicles to get to the price that he asked for.
Well, no sense having a car without.
Right.
Nice to get it where you need it.
I don't know, I was in one for a while, they're quite comfortable.
Were you behind the bars?
Oh,
Walked into that.
I did walk into that. And I will say no for the record.
so historically, Tom, what do we average in Chapter 90 funding each year?
It's like 580,000.
So this 350 is in the capital, but I believe we're also using a grant right now, the RAP grant 360 or 370,000.
Yep, 327, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But that has to be gone by June 30th.
Right.
It will be. They're coming up Shaker Road as far as they can go with that funding, and then that'll be that. And that's a quick turnaround but the alternative is to lose the money, which isn't much of an alternative.
Just a comment on the lease costs each year. When Chief Morissette first started renting leases, I can remember the first lease payment was $94,000 for one of 3 years, and look at it now, 171.
Wow. Pretty wild.
Chris has it.
I was wondering if Tom could tell us how many Chromebooks are involved in that, because I can remember the price on an annual basis being around 87,000.
Yep, I believe it's 420 devices. I have it right here. 420 new devices. Some of them touch, some not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I assume we have a lot, the ticker list was, how long was the ticker list?
Of
Requests.
quite a lot.
Schools are 7 million.
Yeah. There we go. We had upwards of 40 submissions. And that's basically IT, fire, police, schools, and DPW. That's it. So there's a lot of, not to opine too much, we have a lot of capital projects that need serious attention, and our current allocation of funding is coming up short.
Yeah. It's a good thing we had that 2.4 last year from ARPA to
Correct.
give it a little booster shot.
Yep. a lot of stuff got done.
It's, costs a lot to run a town and not getting any cheaper, that's for sure.
Right.
And it's been relatively static for a while, the year has.
Correct.
So I will say, the council has been able to take some off of the list as they go along. The police department had come in for the lockers and the furniture.
Yeah.
We separated them because neither one of them really met the capital, but when you combine it, it would fit under it, so we've taken care of that. Like I said, we just spent $250,000 roughly for our portion of another fire truck. Chief Morissette was able to secure a grant for over $750,000. So that you won't even see on capital in the future, where if he didn't secure that,
It would have to be
in
$1
another
million.
year, you would have seen that coming to capital. So there are other things going on, that does help, but
That's really a good point. There's probably been half a dozen projects that have come off the list in the last, like 6 months, like maybe less. So,
Through procurements of.
yeah, just grants and reallocations of monies, and it's,
Well, and some that are health and safety, like the lockers in the police department. You've got to secure your
Liability.
firearms, you can't have them not.
and so we're waiting on our notice to become a green community. The town's voted for it. The application's in, and I believe it's 120 or 140,000 initial funding, initial grant that we'll get once they accept us in. Like I said, something like that may be able to be used for the police cruisers if they meet the criteria. So every little bit helps.
yep. It's plenty on the list.
Is there an ongoing plan, a capital project plan? We used to talk about that every single year. So you have a listing going into the next fiscal year of what would be pending?
Correct. So the comprehensive capital plan is about ready to be uploaded onto the website. So right on the town manager page, there's the draft budget right now. Then we'll have the final budget at some point, obviously, and then the comprehensive plan will go up there, which will have all the projects from last year, this year,
Yeah.
5-year plan, asset inventory of buildings and vehicles, and then really long-term goals. So yes, yes, and actually the finance, Kim and Olga have been working on taking these accounts and closing them out as we go. So there's an actual completed capital project list and an active one. So as these things come off, we're all trying to get a better job at communicating so they can come off the list. So that list will be updated periodically instead of a whole lot of stagnant information. And that helps. What was there? 5 of the 9 financial things were moving money from capital projects back to the general fund the other night, right? So no sense in letting that money just sit there in a capital account from 4 years ago. So just trying to keep it clean, that's all.
Some of it was the ARPA money.
Yep.
We didn't expend all of it. Obviously, the project came in a little bit under, so we kept that within ARPA and were able to do more with it. So.
And just curious, when we are disposing of some of our larger equipment and whatever, do we have a process for it so that we could maybe recoup? I know it's tiny money, but every little, or is that a work in progress?
Soon, it's a work in progress. Typically, well, I'll use my personal experience, DPW would just sort of trade the vehicles in, which is not, we're not getting as much money as we could, so to speak, but I think we're working on the process of how we auction off those vehicles to get the best return on the asset.
Yeah, because there's some towns, where were they? Heath, who's always, they have no money, one of the hill towns, and they went to, I think there was I don't know if it was a municipal auction or not, but they bought some
Somebody's.
eastern towns, which was loaded
Yeah.
with everything.
Yeah, right.
And they bought it, for big money.
5-year-old
I'm
dump
not-
truck,
Yeah,
the air conditioning didn't work.
yeah, I'm not saying we should do that, I'm saying
No,
that's
I got
something,
you.
a way to dispose of our stuff, yeah.
And this has been an ongoing conversation for at least a couple years now to try to maximize our return
Yeah.
on those investments.
And I'm sure there's some towns or contractors or landscapers or whatever.
Right. You wish you could just say, hey, you want this? It
Yeah,
costs
but there's
this. And-
laws.
Yeah, there are laws. Those are,
Yeah,
you know,
there's a specific process.
pesky.
Pesky laws, man.
I don't want to end up in the back of a cruiser.
I don't want you
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Good
My
job.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks again to the rest of the committee as well.
Those were all category A projects, right? And we were able to get category A done.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so, last meeting, we got through a lot of departments. And this meeting, what I'd like to do is start with our school budget, because that is the biggest budget. And we went through and we did IT and DPW, who are the supporting actors there for the schools, amongst others, but they're the other big ones. So we've had a little while to chew on it. Kathy kicked off our discussion last time. And I was wondering if anyone has any other, just within the, any comments before we get moving into it? No?
Specifically, or
You can be philosophical, or you could be specific.
yeah, I guess I'll start. So I guess just before we get into it, 4% is level services. Is that correct? 4% increase would be level
3.9.
services.
3.9.
But they had 3.9, but a 4 is the number we gave them?
No.
No,
No?
So,
they
so in the past, typically a 2% was level services.
Okay.
But obviously things change each year depending on everything. But that's typically where level services falls, is around 2%. And that's based on the cost of living increase that most of the contracts have and all.
Okay. So when we met with the school committee, the number we agreed upon was 4, right?
No, the number they presented, what we suggested to them was level services. Level services means the same number of employees.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the cost goes up because they have a cost of living increase. So you've got level funding and level services.
Right, contractual.
Level funding would be, we would give them the same dollar amount as last year, which would amount to a cut. Level services basically keeps the same number of employees at whatever the contractual obligations are.
Okay. All right.
What page?
School, by the way, is page 1, and it came in
Oh,
a separate.
right. I put them together.
Just so you can,
I
do
did.
in a couple of minutes,
Since we're talking schools, Donna, if you don't mind, can I ask, just to put it in perspective, because I don't have all the information, the bottom line of the total impact on the town's property taxes, so the bottom line number versus last year, do you know the percentage increase that is, if just for a full budget were to pass? Do you have that information?
Percentage?
Yeah, well, the dollar amount on percentage, I think the dollar amount's just under $2 million, or just over $2 million, but I just want to know the percentage. So if you go to sources and uses,
to the,
Schools.
just the total, I'm talking the town and school.
I'm not following.
I'm not following.
There's a sources and uses page that you have, Councilor Richards just shared with me. And in it is last year's budget of 47,087 million. This year, at least in the level 2, is 49,750. You see that?
Marilyn, what page is that on?
It's page, this is page 1 of 31
This one,
of the source.
Oh, the top one.
yeah, after the flow chart.
This was the page that's referencing. Okay, I have a recap summary, it's not sources and uses. Recap summary.
Oh, okay.
Not sources and, that's okay.
I have it now.
So, well, actually, so, okay.
22, 47,087. See the one you circled?
I circled 49,
Yep,
750.
that's 23, so go 3 columns to the left, 22, level 2. 47,087.
Okay,
That's last year's actual budget impact on the taxpayer, 47,007. This
Right.
year's projected, if passed as is, 49,750. So an
Yes.
increase of 2,670 something thousand, correct?
yes.
This year to last. So my estimate number, and nobody has that percentage increase yet?
Pardon?
Do you have that percentage increase? Does everybody have that? Because isn't that the goal of the year to know what percentage increase? So I'm at 5.6% now, between 47,087 and 49,750. And I just want to acknowledge that the school department's actually asking for $700,000 less from the taxpayer. So if you were to add that back in, add the 700 to the difference, you're at 7.14%, the town side increase.
Okay.
Do you have this? Do
I do, I have it.
No,
It's a recap.
The 5.6 is right, the 5.6 is right.
It's called Chicken Scotland.
yeah, the unknown here too is the valuation. I don't know, she's using a percentage on the valuation, I guess an increase of 5% for the total taxable value of the town.
Yes, and I'm thinking that may be a placeholder, but I don't know, we'll have
Yeah,
that next
I'm
week.
thinking that's
Yes, it
probably the
is.
case, and we also don't have the computation for the levy limit.
Right.
Right,
Isn't that on that sheet? The levy computation? It said leftover levy, it's the same sheet.
She has a levy ceiling,
Yeah, and then
but
leftover
that,
levy.
the levy ceiling is not a place where we want to go, because that's the total valuation times.
Right, but she calculates the levy, the leftover levy.
Taxable,
That was it 2.7 or something that you want? I don't have this information.
so Greg, your point
I don't
is,
see a percentage.
you
My
are
point
saving
is that
707.
historically, as President Page said, we're at 2% for level services, which was, as far as I know, the instructions from the council. Town side, my calculations, although I may be off, but it's more than 5.6, because 5.6 takes into account 5.6%, the 700,000 less that the school is requesting from the taxpayers of East Long Meadow. So if you add the 700 back in, I came out with 7.14% increase town side, which I would say could be not exact, but it's definitely more than 5.6. My point is, the school has worked to give actually a break to the taxpayers because of the state focusing on education and giving East Long Meadow through the Student Opportunity Act an additional $2 million in Chapter 70 money, of which we're only using 130, thus the $700,000 less on an annual basis we're asking from the town last year's budget to next. So the town side is much higher in percentage increase, right, at 7.14 or whatever that number may be. It's higher than 5.6. I can just say that in perspective as we talk about the school budget, because I realize it's more than half. But the contribution from one, we're all in this together, and I know everyone is doing their best. But government wants to grow, bureaucracy wants to grow, and a 5.6 is a huge growth budget. I think we have to admit to that, and a 7.14 town side only is much higher than 2, which is the level services. So I only put that in perspective because I haven't heard that conversation happen yet. So I want to just keep an eye on the bottom line and the bottom line percentage increase, which I believe now is at a 5.6.
So Greg, on the $2 million that we're getting from the state,
The town's getting $2 million extra, basically.
Chapter 70 money
Chapter
is
70.
to be spent on education.
right,
And the Student Opportunity Act is directly correlated to things that are happening in East Long Meadow. So the state of Massachusetts says to this town of East Long Meadow, we would like you to invest $2 million more into education. We feel part of that $2 million should be used towards goodwill to get people interested in voting for the new high school, which I believe should be all of our number one priority as a town, because it's the biggest investment this town will ever have made. And it's a big price tag for the taxpayers. So the best we can do to help the taxpayers this year, I'm just putting that out there, that the school side has actually dropped the request from the taxpayer of East Long Meadow. That's really just my point.
okay, I just a little confused on the 2 million, did I hear this wrong? You are not spending all of it?
The Chapter 70 increase from
Yeah.
last year to this year is $2 million. It's
Right.
never that much. It's
No, I know.
usually
Right, it's like a
fraction of
lottery.
that, small fraction.
One
This year,
percent.
the Student Opportunity Act increased East Long Meadow's portion of Chapter 70 by a huge amount.
Right.
So our request as is, at our 3.9%, is $700,000 less required from the taxpayers of East Long Meadow to put towards the schools in East Long Meadow because of the net.
Don?
Yeah.
The Chapter 70 money is $15 million.
Right.
That's a $2 million increase from the previous
From
year.
13.
Jeff unfortunately said they're keeping 130,000. It's not 130,000, it's 1.3 million. So that the math is right in our minds.
Right.
Thank you, Chris, yes.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
I
So
achieved that.
of the 2 million extra, he's saying they're keeping 1.3 million, and by submitting a 3.9% request, there's $700,000 of that money that would be to the town's benefit.
Okay, and so, but this comes out of the 2 million.
Yes, comes out.
Right, and what happens with the 700,000? Why aren't you using the full 2 million?
We're not requesting, so remember
Okay,
we
from the
said,
state, you're not
and Mr. Smith
requesting.
said,
Okay,
they
that's
wanted
where didn't get it.
to use most of it, which we have to be careful, because you can't always correlate Chapter 70 to the increase in schools, because I'll concede, some years we had 1 year with 0 increase. We've had other years it's a large increase. So I don't want to tie Chapter 70 increase directly to the increase in the schools, because that's not how we have operated in the past. However, because of this huge, enormous number, because of the state's interest in investing in education in East Long Meadow, we have this $2 million extra. We're not asking to use it all. We're only asking to use 1.3 million of it.
So the state keeps the rest?
No, the town
the town
keeps the
keeps the
rest.
rest.
Right.
But Don, in effect, requiring less taxes from the taxpayers of
Right,
East Long Meadow.
because they could have used all of it.
Okay, I just didn't get where that 700
So
was
if you were
going.
to split the school in a town, and we're all one town, we're all in this together. If our budget was the only budget the town had, the taxpayers of East Long Meadow would have to spend $700,000 less next year. We're asking for $2.68 million plus the 7, so $3.5 million is the town side increase. I come out at 7.14, but it's 1.5. I just wanted to put it in perspective. Let's discuss this.
Say that again. You're using 2.67?
The difference between the 47,087, so 47,087,000,
Yeah.
which is 22's actual budget,
Right.
and the 22 projected level 2, 49,750, is 206 or
663,
2,000,000,
right. I have 2,663,372.
That's
Right.
So that represents a 5.6% increase last year to this year's impact on the taxpayer of East Long Meadow, direct impact. And that's after the 700,000 less required from the school. If you were to zero out the school, you're looking at a town side of about 7.14%. And Mr. Page said, historically 2% is those sorts. I know this is unique times, but these are big numbers we're looking at. And I just wanted to say that because this is the time that we want to have the lowest impact on the taxpayers right now, or a better impact so that they're more willing to go for the school because they're not getting a huge tax increase this year. It's something I want to just put out there as you discuss it.
Well, and if I may, let's say, worst case scenario, the school doesn't pass. We still, this is a personal opinion here, we still have a school that is going to need some serious capital investment. So we have to keep, the bottom line is, we're gonna be paying a lot of money no matter what, and we have no choice.
Well, we have a lot of money right now. We have $7 million in free cash. We have an opportunity to have a less of an impact. The last number, I don't know all the numbers, I'm not, the last number I had was 7 million. And we have an opportunity to have an impact on the taxpayer this year, so we can say to them, we understand that we're gonna be asking them for a huge increase, I don't want to say huge, a sizable increase in their taxes come the school passing. We need to pass the school, as you said. There's no plan B. Plan B is $100 million, plan A is $120 million. Plan A is a new school, plan B is fixing what we have. So it's, you have some input in this. I appreciate the opportunity to say my piece.
At this point, I want, yes.
So the school budget, the projection level to 34,618,457, of which 17 million is coming back to us in Chapter 70. That's really what it comes down to. So on a $34 million budget to the town, we're receiving 17 million. I mean, I don't think we can look at town side, school side, this side, that side. The state's given us $17 million to help operate our schools on a $34 million budget. That's really what it comes down to. What I look at is, I believe 2 years ago, Chris had done up numbers as far as what the state mandates that we spend per student, and then what the town actually spends per student. And we spend a lot more than what their minimum mandate is, which is good. I mean, obviously, our school system's important to the town, and that's why we do that. But I think once you get into, and I've showed before, percentages don't seem to work. When you're talking a $34 million budget and a 4% as compared to another department that's at 300,000, well, 4% of 300,000, it gets them a copy of it. And again, it's just, when you look at perspectives like that, it's very difficult. So you may have a department, you may have multiple departments, smaller departments that need a 6% increase because of a few minor things. They may have put on a part-time employee that jumped them up 5.5% or 6%. That's my thought. And I know Chris had something. I saw her hand go before me and I jumped in.
Hang on,
I always look at.
hang on 1 minute.
Well, mine's on a different topic, if yours
Same
is.
topic? Similar?
No, I was going back to the foundation budget and what the town is required to spend. And of course, we've always exceeded what the town is required as. But for this year, with the $34,618,457, that's the budget request. That's an increase of $1,299,442 at the 3.9%. The town's portion, now the state requires our contribution to be $18,843 and $898. I'm sorry, $18,843,898. The town portion with the current request is $19,500,000, and Greg is correct. That is a savings of $707,382 from the previous year. But we also had discussed the request of 4 new positions. The ESSER fund, the paraprofessionals that are funded through ESSER moving over to their budget, and 1 new teacher. And I know that's something that Kathy made a very good case for. I do feel that there may be still monies within the budget that I know they have a deadline of next year to use that ESSER funds. So I tend to think that perhaps they could take not a percentage reduction, but a 0.1% reduction or 0.2% reduction. Considering, and I also would like to state that I think the legislature, in giving the extra money, and the governor also in the Chapter 70, wants to also help the towns, because they know the towns, they're getting hammered for wanting more money for infrastructure. And I think they intended with this Chapter 70 money to help the towns as well.
Okay, at this point, I want to get the committee.
Can I just address the ESSER issue, please? Is that okay? Okay, so ESSER
30 seconds.
is under the purview of the school committee and how we use ESSER, right? No other department has been asked about any of their sources, any of their grants as they've gone through. And so for this group to decide how the school committee is to spend ESSER, which is what we're proposing, is not really the purview, I believe, of this committee. So, yes, it's not a huge amount, but any amount we don't use, that you subtract from us will probably come from ESSER, because we need, those are 6 paraprofessionals that we rearranged the preschool. We're going to put 3 of them on the operating budget. If we don't get funding for them, we will still keep them, but we will buy less curriculum. That's the end of it. So it's not like the money's just going to sit around and we don't have anything to do with it. We have it earmarked for curriculum purchases next year to use the ESSER, which is what it's for, to improve education in East Long Meadow. That's what it's for.
Okay, I just have 2 comments. One, Greg is correct. We cannot tell the school committee how to spend their money, and there are good reasons why. That is state law, because I imagine, I could be wrong, but that in the past, perhaps towns were pulling back and the schools were just...
Education Reform Act.
Exactly, okay,
Yep,
thank
yep.
you. Secondly, in response to grants, the only difference I've seen is grants that the towns I get are generally for actual physical things. Many of the grants that I've seen for the schools are positional.
You're allowed to
for
use them
additional
for position.
curriculum and...
So historically, the school committee has made an effort to not put FTEs, full-time employees, on grants because they have the reoccurring costs.
Yeah.
This time, because of the pandemic, because we rearranged preschool, our preschool is through the roof in terms of numbers. We hired the 6 paraprofessionals in response to that and put them on ARPA. Eventually, we have to take them off. We still have a use for them, but typically we do not put full-time employees on grants for this reason. On the town side, town does have ARPA, and you've heard they've used it for other things that the council decided to use it for. They would be able to use that for operating costs too, as well, I believe. So there's both sides. We're not talking about the ARPA. We're only talking about ESSER.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm closing off to the audience and committee. Kathy.
I just wanted to comment on Greg's statement about there's approximately 7 million in free cash. There was on July 1st of 22, 6.812. But at the present, when Kim Collins printed this sheet, which is just shy of a month ago, we have 3,667 available.
Did we buy?
That's still pending, correct?
So that's not out of there yet?
No, it's not out of there.
So
It's
we're gonna-
well, my words, it's set aside.
Oh, so it is out of there. So put it back in, because we haven't spent it yet, though, is what I'm saying.
Stop.
Sorry. Sorry.
The council wants to-
No, I'm sorry. But, and the only reason why I say free cash is because it's a huge number, right, Kathy? You
Correct.
submit that. So we have an opportunity here. We put the $1 million back in for capital. Maybe we don't put it back in this year and we use $1 million out of the free cash to fund capital this year. I was a big proponent of not doing that last year, and I know I've changed course on that. But what I'm trying to do is it is the cliff, and we're hitting it, which is why we're at 5.8, which is dangerous before we go into voting for school.
Now, hang on.
I have a full meeting in 15 minutes, so.
Okay,
So it's not.
I'll be late.
done. Matt, do you have anything? I know you had opened up and you've been thinking.
So I guess at face value, I feel we should accept the school department budget as is presented. And I'm a little bit frustrated about the direction of the conversation being about using the ESSER funds for the paras and the, SEL teacher.
I didn't suggest that in my speech, I just said there was the possibility if they chose.
Well, I remember last discussion, I think it was President Page brought it up.
So that's how they're being funded now. They're being funded right now
Through ESSER.
through the ESSER. There's 6 paraprofessionals
Right.
being funded through ESSER.
Yes.
And my comment was.
Wouldn't this bring them
leave
on to?
It would bring 3 of them onto the operating side. And the SEL teacher does not exist on the payroll right now.
Yeah.
It went by the wayside 4 years ago. So that would be a new one, strictly out of the operating budget.
So what are we debating right now? Am I lost? Because I thought the discussion was around using the ESSER funds, continuing to use the ESSER funds to pay for the paras and the SEL teacher, and not for curriculum as Greg just stated.
We can't,
do that.
So what
Ours is, do we support
give what they presented?
the strategy of how they fund
I
it.
understand. I understand.
and the overall
Right.
budget number?
Mhm.
Because remember, we cannot add,
Yes.
and we cannot direct. The
Okay,
only
so
thing we can do is
playing
subtract. That's it.
word games here. Okay, so I guess with I suppose the intent of giving the school department less money would be to support the high school has been brought up. That's sort of the tenor around the conversation is how I've sort of interpreted what's been discussed. And since I've been elected, I have frequently wanted to either have not supported initiatives due to, I think it would hurt the high school, the Green Communities, Green Town Act, namely. Although I did vote for it, this 382 North Main Street discussion. And so I'm a little bit, I feel like there's a lack of consistency on the part of the town council regarding that when there's larger numbers of money being thrown around than this $150,000 in the school department budget. I feel like we're splitting hairs here.
Jay?
I really don't have anything to add at this point, no. It's try and take it all in, honestly.
And Jim?
Yeah, well, can I be a little philosophical, Don? Because when Ralph started, I like the idea of level funding. I think in general, as long as we're meeting, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. As long as we're meeting the needs, the evolving needs of the students, I think we should always focus for that. I think as Greg had mentioned also, we don't want growth for growth's sake. Again, as long as we're meeting the needs. So I think these are pretty tough times, with everything escalating. But I think, in general, we want to make sure that our government, our town government, is working as efficiently and for the greater good of the taxpayer, the student, all of the townspeople here. So I think we've got to be cautious. It was pretty tough trying to follow all of the numbers there, and I think we could have, do a deeper dive. But in general, I think everyone is working pretty hard to make everything work. But we've got a big nut coming up with the high school, and so we've got to keep that in mind. So I think strategically, I like where the school committee's going, but I want to be cautious, especially when we're using state or federal grants, funds, things that could dry up tomorrow, and then we become reliant upon them, down the road, and then it hits the townspeople, the taxpayers. So that's really kind of where I stand on it. We want to be as tight and as efficient as possible.
Ralph, anything?
So based on everything that was said, I had brought up last week funding the school at a 3.6% increase. Which, like I said, as Greg's mentioned, that they would probably use the ESSER. If they did, that would be a 1.5 million turnover in ESSER instead of 1.6. I think for his point to look to try and keep the budget tight, like he said, so that people get the idea we're doing this so that you guys can help fund a new school. $100,000 is not a lot. If they run short, they always have the option to come to the town council like they did 2 years ago and say, we're running short, and the town council gave them money out of free cash to help out. And I don't see any reason the town council wouldn't do the same thing. That's just my thought. I'm not a voting member.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. They did come to us a couple of years ago because they had extraordinary special ed costs. Again, special ed in this state is an unfunded mandate. And they were backed up against the wall. And our obligation to the entire town is to take care of our people. And so, yes, there was no question at all about why we should fund that. But I see that differently than just saying, now we're short, so can you just, give us more money? That was an unanticipated, help me out here, somebody. Unanticipated expense by the school side. I mean, they didn't start the year speak, Kathy, anticipating being that short, but new students moved into the town with extraordinary needs, and it pushed the needle over the top. But I think that's different than if you just run short because you ran short. That's all I'm saying.
My point is they had a $222,000 carryover in ESSER. And then they received the additional grant, and now they're having a $1.6 million carryover as compared to a past 222. So I don't see where they're going to spend it all. I mean, obviously they have to spend it all by September 2024.
Right, so 15 months away. Yeah.
Matt, did you have one more?
No, nothing. Okay.
Anyone like to move?
Ralph, please repeat what you said. You support 3.6% versus 3.9?
Exactly.
So what does that translate to for?
34,518,500.
This is completely arbitrary. Can I speak again? I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just arbitrary. It's an arbitrary cut.
But they have to be arbitrary. We cannot tell you what to cut.
Other towns, our other departments, 4, 6, 5, 8, we're at 3, 9. The only one you're going to look at is school to cut. There have been other budgets approved at much higher percentages. And there was no discussion of anything. This is just a random cut.
Okay.
Cut everybody by 0.3. Do everybody. I'm all for that, just not the schools alone. Thank you.
So, what did you say before for number? Oh.
A 3.6% increase. I came up with a $34,518,500 budget.
I've got it broken out as 3.7 would be taxpayer saving of 774,020. 3.6, 807,339. 3.5, 840,658 taxpayer savings. That's based off of, that's including the original 707. And then we're just incrementally.
What's the dollar difference between 3.6 and 3.9, if you have that? I'm trying to digest it.
About
99,000?
Yeah, it's about 100 grand.
It seems I'm not really sure why we're quibbling over $100,000 when the town council is considering purchasing a $6 million building. As a member of the town council, I say this to my fellow counselors in the room, I don't really agree with the direction of this conversation. And I understand, the specifics of the 382 North Main Street discussion and how that'll hit taxpayers, but it seems like it just seems, why the school department, we accepted, so far, every other department that's come ahead of us, we've accepted the percentage increase without really any questions. I've accepted the professional opinion of every department head that's come in here, and I don't know why we're not doing the same for the school department. I understand the outsized size of the school department, but is there any other reason other than that? It's the size? But that's the nature of municipal governance in
So
state.
you've noticed on the other budget, we're able to go through line item by line item, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The school department, you're not able to do that. You're only able to give them one lump sum and a total. The total budget, like I said, you're looking at $34 million. By the time you figure in the portion of the DPW budget that actually goes to the school, IT budget that actually goes into the school use, HR department that goes into the school use, you're not at 34 million. You're actually at, Chris did it up 2 years ago, I think it was 64% of the budget, roughly.
The debt service, everything that gets added into, everything that comes from other departments into the school. So you could easily say that the school budget is 60% of the whole amount raised by taxes. Perhaps that's why, we're looking at it, you get one broad number. For instance, when I went through, I don't know if you've gone to, but I was wondering why, for instance, under supply, I looked at these line items. One of them went up 68.6% from 14,000 to 25,000. The next one went up 201% from 21,000 to 63,000. There was another one that went up from 29,000 to 42,000, 43.6%. And another small one, this one was only 1,600, but it's going up to 5,000. That was another 201%. We can't question that. Why all of a sudden are all the supply line items going up? That can't be our concern. The concern is the bottom line. So all of a sudden, when I see, something's going up from 20,000 to 63,000, doesn't sound right to me. But nobody's mentioned why that happened. Maybe Greg has the answer for us today. I don't know.
Kathy, anything?
I'll push the envelope here. I recommend that this committee let me start over. I recommend that we accept the school department numbers as presented at 3.9%.
I second.
Discussion? Okay, because of Zoom,
We have to do
we have to do roll call. Jim? Hello?
Yeah.
You hear everything?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Hang on, let me write down here. What is your vote?
Struggling with it.
Board
I think
discussion? What?
Yeah. Well, I think I agree with the conversation. There's the two sides of it, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to work it out with everyone here, is that not quibbling over $100,000 in one sense, and I get it, but then the bigger picture of this is it kind of sets a precedence. It kind of says, hey, we've got to be very cautious. But then I'm going back to, okay, why one department in particular? So being very honest, I'm struggling here because I don't know what the right answer is. I think I'm comforted in that our committee is just about a recommendation, correct? There's nothing beyond that. So, thanks for making me go first, Dawn.
Sorry.
I'm going to be honest. I could go either way on this. I honestly could. I'm just concerned overall for the town, and I don't want to see anything growing for growth's sake, as has been mentioned before. But I'm going to go, I guess, on the record, and I'm going to say I can accept this, but not with great enthusiasm. But I can accept and vote yes for the 3.9.
Okay, so you are an aye.
I am an aye. That took a long time to get there, and I apologize, Dawn.
Okay, all right, thank you. Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I feel very much in the same boat as Jim. And I'm actually going to be a no. Jay?
Aye.
Ayes have it. It is recommended, as presented by the school committee. Okay, we have the big nut is done. And now we have half an hour. And I want to say I appreciate everyone for agreeing to staying half an hour. So we have.
Greg, I'll be there. Just
Yes, I'll let them know.
Yep.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
All right. Next up is we're going to go straight through. Page 15 is elections. 15 of that big thick one.
Got it.
Yeah, I kind of cheated and I pulled it all apart and I just stapled together.
What should have done that?
That's not cheating, it's smart.
Wow. Trust me, when I'm having to run the meeting and
It's hard
plan,
when you're
you have to, your brain has to split and it
Yeah.
doesn't like to do that. I can tell you that.
Did you do the clerk?
Yes.
Did you do the clerk budget?
Pardon?
Did you do the clerk budget?
Town clerk, I think we did.
We
I'm
did.
sorry, okay.
I think so last
I
week.
didn't check it.
It's not in
And that's
my,
my check.
Yes,
That's my fault
I-
for not checking it.
yeah, I hang on.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, we didn't do the
The
clerk.
one,
Good catch. There you go.
hang on. Good boy, you are, good thing you're here. Hang on. Where is that on the town?
Page 13.
What page?
13,
Yes.
that's what, it was just the two right before.
Oh, that's where we stopped.
Hang on.
We stopped at IT, so we have to,
Yeah, we did, we kind of hopped around.
right, we did.
Okay,
So we have
thank
to
you,
go-
yes, and here it is with my big okay, which means, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let me write on my notes so I know. Town. Oh, hang on, yeah, wait a minute. Town, clerk, it was written, I had it written as town council.
TC is town council by my,
Oh, yes, TC number
that's the
one
very
and then
first one,
town.
and then
Yep.
the clerk is a
It's
separate.
clerk, okay, yep. All right. Overall, 2%. Questions, comments,
Are we on
motions?
town council or?
No, we're on 13
We're
on
doing
clerk.
Clerk. Bear with me.
Okay,
I'm
all right,
reading-
all right,
Yeah,
all right.
page 13.
Gotcha.
It says town council, only it's
Town
town
council.
slash.
Town council,
Yes,
Gotcha, yes.
so.
There's nothing in that budget other than the typical, what we've seen across all departments, supply increases, and there's also a decrease of in one line item by 75% under printing. Trying to think why there would be a decrease.
Because of the touchpads.
Oh, okay.
So we wanted to print
Yes,
everything
right,
out.
yeah, okay. Well, that would be after elections, though.
Well,
But it
she
trades
does
off,
that budget
yes.
too.
Yeah.
Any others? The polling pads. So they cut, are those the
It's
polling
the
pads?
touchpad instead of, when you go to vote and they got all the sheets.
Yeah.
Now there's
So-
gonna be iPad screens that
Yeah.
you just check.
So
Oh,
it'll-
really?
Yeah,
Well,
Oh, yeah, we talked about
provided the
that. I
budget
remember
gets
that.
passed.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's
So-
very cool.
potentially.
And they're all in the same office, so
That's
there is
right.
another budget
Yep,
called
yep.
elections, which is when I was starting myself. Okay.
Okay,
Which
all right,
was
all right.
always merged up until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we got smart and broke it out because you couldn't get an accurate picture.
Right. Any other comments? If not,
I move to recommend approval.
Second?
okay. Jim, you're on.
Aye.
Nat?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I am, yes.
Aye.
I or yes, same thing.
Yes.
It's all good to me. Okay. Now, the elections. Tom, you can
And I guess I
watch
spoke
that.
too quick. Yeah, this is where that all comes into play with the elections too, yeah.
Look at those office supplies.
Well,
That's what I was saying. I think
Right.
this is where
the pads are, but we also
Yeah.
picked up a 5th precinct
Right.
a little over a year ago, so that's made a difference too.
And, yeah, and we've had drops. And so everyone knows, I think we already said it before, this actually is relatively low because this year we do not have a lot of elections. We've had years that are crazy money because we've got primaries.
But we will
presidential.
have the ballot question for the light plant is in June with
Yes.
with the town elections.
Yeah.
But then we have a ballot question for the schools in November. But there are no other town-related elections that parallel the state
Right.
elections this year, which is an odd
So we
year
have
for us.
locally big issues.
Right.
Okay. Hearing no other questions here, Jay, would you like to move?
I move that we recommend the budget as presented for elections.
Second?
Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Jay? Okay, excellent. Woo-hoo. Planning Board, this is page 16.
Pretty much
Yeah,
level funded except for postage, but that's always contingent on how many public hearings and zoning issues and having to notify abutters. I recommend approval of the planning, zoning, conservation budget.
Second?
Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
All right. Police.
That's a, the overall 4.6% increase, but it does include a full-time lieutenant, which is part of that individual was on half of last year's budget, correct? Ralph or no?
I don't think at all.
Didn't it have to do with the,
Yes,
yeah,
half was on last year, but
Right.
this year,
It's a
the
full-
sergeant.
Sergeant's
being
back
added
up.
Right,
Right, that
exactly.
was part of
Because
the
we
deal.
Right.
moved the sergeant last year.
right, okay.
So
The
it's,
agreement was that this year we would put a sergeant back so that there's 6 of them for all scheduled times that they need.
so it's pretty much contractual. And other expenses outside of the chief's control, gas, utilities, vehicle repair.
I motion that we recommend the police department's budget as presented.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none? Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm yes.
Yes.
See, we migrated you over to yes.
Yeah.
Although when we're all together, we say aye.
Yeah, exactly.
No rubber leaving.
Well, I feels a bit weird when you're not saying it. It's
Aye.
yeah.
It's very old school.
Pirate-esque.
Yeah, pirating.
Pirate. It's naval. Yeah, you know?
And then there's nay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a horse.
Right?
I will leave this to the discussion of the rest of the committee. We just heard fire. You feel comfortable on discussion?
I do.
I do.
Good, okay. Could I have a motion so we can discuss?
I move that we recommend the fire department budget as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next up is on page 21, building inspector, which is actually
Decrease.
a decrease. And since, well, I want to say.
They got a lot of fees, right, Ralph?
What did you say?
Fees, he knows.
About 4 pages.
Oh, that.
Thank
Yeah,
you for reminding
yeah,
me.
There is I recommend approval of the building budget as submitted.
A second.
Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm yes.
Yes.
All right, we are up to dispatch.
It's not a budget per se, is there?
No, well,
It's been,
One line.
oh, it's our share of the West
Yes,
Palm.
correct, yes.
Okay,
which if you look at it,
is down.
yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. So that's gonna.
And just an FYI, Westcom is anticipating the acquisition of 2 or 3 more towns, right, Tom? Which will
Drive it down.
drive it down over time, our assessment, because it's proportionate.
Okay, so Matt moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm yes.
Yes.
Didn't even have to ask. Hitting the rhythm here, guys. All right. Library. And we did have a question. I have some chicken scratch here. And part of it was, I forget, something had a question on the part-time. I don't know if it was, had to rely with the state mandates certain spending. And I cannot remember exactly what it was.
Chris, did you bring that up to us? That they're obligated to spend a certain amount, and if they don't get the reimbursement for being part of the Mars or whatever network.
Yesterday's cherry sheet, the library is going to receive a little bit more money than what was originally proposed. We're back to the governor's proposal from the Senate, 51,309. So I don't know how that impacts it.
How it will play. Do we want to hold this until Kim comes? Or do we, what do you wanna do?
She just sent that out to all the department heads to verify everything, so
Yeah,
once that all gets verified, I'm sure
okay, so
that
why don't
information will be
we,
updated.
all right,
You know what I mean?
so why don't we table that one until next week? That sounds good?
Yep.
All right, table. The way we're moving, we'll have plenty of time, I think, to be able to do that. We should have- Okay, okay. Recreation. Which considering
all of the amazing activities they offer year-round for all ages, not just kids, and their budget's only up 1.7% speaks for itself.
So they have a revolving fund?
They do. That does help. And, you know, the fees that parents pay for, or any fee attached to any activity, but the fees to be on teams or competitions.
So. Jim,
I recommend approval of the library, rec department budget.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none? Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I am a yes.
Yes.
My favorite. Celebrations. Just a little historical, way back in a million years ago when I was on appropriations, we repeatedly voted this down. I was often the lone
Year
person.
after year.
Yes,
Four
because,
guys would get up and
yeah, I know.
appeal for the parade, and they would run them into the ground.
Well, I'll tell you, this is what we hang our hat on, is the
Yeah.
4th of July. And if you put it in the frame of marketing, that works for me, just saying. It's important to have that little extra love, I think, for our town. Anyhow, I'm off of my soapbox here. Jay, would you like to?
I move that we recommend the celebration budget as presented.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none? Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I am a yes. Jay?
Yes.
And we are down to the capital projects. And does everyone feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think we already asked our questions. Anyone have any other lingering questions for Tom? If not, I would love to hear a motion.
I recommend approval of the capital plan budget for FY '24.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none. Jim?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, look at that, 3:15, not too bad, right on schedule here. Those were the departments, we've got the lion's share. Next week, Kim, Tom will probably be here,
Here.
or Mary are welcome, because that is when we will be discussing other things like the reserve fund transfers,
Debt service.
debt service, sources and uses, all the big picture things, so that we all know. We also we're a good resource for townspeople to know what's going on, and for the town council, because it really helps if they know what's coming up. And we will do library then too, because it will be updated. So now we are on the old new business. So yes, indeed, the cherry sheets have come out. And thank you, Chris. I didn't have to go looking. She sent it to me yesterday, which was wonderful. I'm sure we've all been reading and watching what's going on.
Is that a finalized one?
No.
That's
No, that
not
now-
even finalized though.
No, it's the Senate Ways and
It's
Means.
just,
Right.
yeah.
Goes to the conference
Yeah.
committee then.
Which,
And we'll
It could
see how the
change again.
state goes, because they take their time sometimes.
Yeah.
But at least it gives us a footing, and we know. And most of it has stayed the same, except for a couple of incremental changes. I talked about what we're doing. So next week also, because we are meeting on the 18th, and I have no doubt that we will be able to end by 3:00. I have already started some rough crafting here of our presentation to the town council, because we're meeting on the 18th, which is a Thursday, and on Tuesday, public hearings are heading. So we need to get our act together, which I think it is in good sense. I've also, I asked Chris, and she sent me a copy of the letter of last year. Last year was an exceptional year, so I'm sure the crafting of it will be a little bit different. But I just wanted to get a sense of what was communicated to the council.
Yeah, in the past, we kind of submitted like another version of the town manager's budget, but,
Well, this year it's
she really
pretty much,
honed her skills on the job, so.
so on both school side and the town side, they are as recommended. So we won't have to get really into the weeds of things, other than saying that, and then crafting some other, I know Jim used to do the crunching on levy limit and all of that fun stuff, so that you get, the town council gets the full picture. So I think we're on schedule here. 10 minutes early here. Do I hear anyone who wants to get out of here? Because I know we have places to go.
We have
so
to go
before
to
we go, can I just touch on something?
Sure.
So Greg brought up that on the town side, the budget increase was 5.9 and how great the school was in savings. But what he didn't mention was on the town side, we're not looking at just our departments. We're looking at utilities, which includes the school that's up. We're looking at workers' compensation, 21% increase. We're looking at health insurance increase. These aren't department costs. These are across the board that we have no say in.
Right.
So I am going to take before the next meeting and look at our department budgets, which I noticed over half of them, just by pulling out, came in at 2% or less, and some of them were negative, so down from the year before. So I know he's good and he throws out great numbers and all, but the facts are the facts that our actual departments on the town side have cut their budgets to the bone. And we're stuck with, on the town side, the insurances that we have to cover, the utilities that we have to cover, where we have no say in that. And on the school side,
And a retirement
it's
assessment.
completely different. The school side has a say in their entire budget. I mean, they're not dealing with the utilities, that's on the town side. So yeah, when it goes up 5.9%, geez, it looks bad. But once you take out all the invariables that you don't have control over, the town side is extremely tight on their budgets. And I'm gonna say I'm extremely proud of our departments and
Yes.
the job that
Without a
they
doubt.
do
Thank you.
in keeping it that tight. Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
adjourn?
Second?
Roll call, sorry,
Oh.
guys. Jim?
Sorry, yes.
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
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 All right.
Are we here again next week?
We are.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna make sure and I will send you.
Double check. I got your extra.